Welcome to my channel. My name is James, and we are doing a meditation challenge. Today is day 12 of our meditation challenge, and I decided to record this one because I'm going to be really busy today. And so I decided I was just going to record this, and this is something that's been really deep on my heart. And this one might be a little bit longer because one of the things that I learned a long time ago was, as I was going through my own journey, I was working with a Native American group, and one of my teachers taught me this thing about these principles and the emotional state. And one of the things that he taught me was the 4 destructive enemies in our emotional states. And today I wanted to share these with you. As I did my meditations today, this was coming up that I needed to share these states with people and help people to understand them. This is something that's been hugely impactful in my own journey. We have a lot of positive and negative emotions, and it's okay to feel whatever emotions you're feeling. And I want this to be understood right from the start, wherever you're at in your journey right now. This comes from love and compassion for people. And I want you to understand that wherever you're at, it's okay to be feeling whatever you're feeling right now. Wherever you're at in your emotional state and in your emotional journey, you're perfectly fine to feel whatever you feel. However, if we want to find peace, because this is my entire philosophy, everything I'm teaching is about how to find peace within yourself and continue your expansion and to expand. This is why it's peace expanding, because we're finding peace, and from that place of peace, we're expanding and we're growing and we're becoming better people. In order to find that peace within yourself, there's 4 emotional states that you have to eliminate from your life. And we have to take these out and trash them and get rid of them and never allow ourselves to go back into those states again. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad person if you feel these things. I've felt every one of them in my own life. But the more we get rid of these emotional states and eliminate these 4 emotional states from our lives, the more we will be at peace with ourselves and at peace with other people. And the more we can bring love and compassion into everything that we do. So the first one is hatred. Years ago, one of my teachers was Dr. Wayne Dyer. And when he did his program called The 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace, which I will link to right here, a full playlist where I did a whole series on that book. And he did an audio program, and in this, they went through this long. It was like 15-20 minutes long, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But basically, the history of our entire planet is the history of who we hate. And the only enemy that we truly have in that he said, is hatred itself. And whenever I read that, it was in like 2007 or 2008. And I had been through a divorce, and I had been through a lot of ups and downs. And this was about the same time I was starting my content business. So it was probably around 2008. And that was the first time I read the 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. And whenever I went through that, it hit me to the core, because I had so much hatred in my life for other people. I was so angry and so hateful towards my ex-wife and other people and my stepmom and other people that I thought had taken advantage of me and abused me and done me wrong. And when I read that, I realized the only enemy I really have in my life is hatred. And so I started actively working on removing hatred from my life. And I had been told this years ago by my teacher in the Native American ways, and when he taught me these 4 bastard emotions, and I hadn't really done all the work to remove them from my life yet. But it was hatred was the first one. And when we hate, hatred causes suffering, and hatred comes from people that are suffering. When we can look at people that are in a state of hate And it's really easy to hate people that hate you. And this is one of the things that's dividing our country right now is hatred. And the only way to heal that is with compassion and love for the people on the other side. You know, I'm seeing all the stuff going on right now about Roe versus Wade. And it's funny, it brings up just a couple of weeks ago, about what, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I guess, about a month or so ago, my friend Susie Evolutionary, and I'll link to her channel up here as well. She was doing she's a tarot reader, and she was doing a reading for me as well as other people on her channel. And one of the things that came out of her reading for me was that I had to let go of something that I was dwelling on from 20 years ago. It took me a while to figure out what she was talking about. And she said that the reason I had experienced that was so I could have more compassion now. Well, 20 years ago, my ex-wife was pregnant. And we don't know if it was mine or not. That's a whole nother story. But she had the pregnancy was not viable. And she had to have an abortion. She didn't have a choice. It was either she and the baby died or they had to abort the pregnancy. The baby had no chance. If this goes through, women in that condition won't have the choice. They're just being told, "Oh, you're just going to die." That's not right. And my heart goes out to all the women in that situation. Years ago, we worked with, my ex-wife had also been through a lot of sexual abuse. And so we worked with a sexual abuse and rape trauma center. And in that, I met a lot of women who had been raped. And some of them got pregnant. And not a single one of them that I met that had aborted their pregnancy ever once regretted that decision. Almost every single one of them that I met that had not aborted the pregnancy regretted that decision because they had to relive that trauma. Even the ones that gave the child up for adoption, they had to relive that trauma. They couldn't even begin their healing process until after the pregnancy was over because they were reliving that trauma every single day. And yes, it is something that is extremely traumatic and will affect you and will scar you and will take years to recover from. But they couldn't even begin that process of recovery until after the pregnancy was over. That ain't right. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. I'm personally, when we had Emily, we were given a very similar choice, and we chose to go through with the pregnancy. But the point is, we had the right to make that choice. And nobody has the right to take that choice away. The government does not have the right. This is a decision that should be between the family and the doctors, not a government-made decision that's just mandated to you. And I know that they're saying that, oh, well, we're taking it away from the federal government and making it to the states. Well, we live in Texas. And I can guarantee you, Texas is one of the first states they're already trying to pass law here in Texas to make it illegal to have abortions for any reason. And this is not right. Women have the right to their bodily autonomy, whether you agree with it religiously or not, doesn't matter. You don't have to like their choice, but that you don't have the right to take away their choice. I'm about freedom. The only way we find peace is with freedom. The more I go through my spiritual awakening, the more I go through my own healing and my own chart, the more liberal I get. But I used to be super hardcore conservative, and I was one of those people that was in that state of saying there's no reason for it ever. And that situation that I had to go through with my ex-wife, and we had to make that terrible choice to terminate the pregnancy, completely shifted my awareness around it, and completely shifted between working with the right trauma victims and working with that situation in our own lives. Completely shifted my stance, and I am now firmly 100% pro-choice. I'm pro-choice on pretty much everything. I think that the less government interferes with our day-to-day lives, the better, all the way around on pretty much every issue. And in some issues, I side with more of the conservative side because they are more pro-choice on certain areas. And in some areas, I side with the more liberal side because they are more pro-choice. But I am not assigned to any political party or any religious ideology, but I am pro freedom, and I am pro people having the right to choose what gives them peace. And the more government tries to control morality, and the more government tries to control what people do with their bodies, the less freedom we have to choose our own peace. And in this stance, I'm seeing all this anger and hatred and this polarization, and the whole polarization is because of hatred. Getting back on subject here. The whole polarization comes from hatred. And the only enemy we truly have is hatred itself. We have to eliminate the need to hate. We need to come from a place of love and compassion and look at the other side. And when both sides can actually sit and listen with compassion to the other side, we could heal the divides in this country. But without letting go of the hatred and sitting with compassion, the only way we can do that is to first do that within ourselves as individuals. We can't eliminate hatred between people until we eliminate our own place inside of ourselves that's bringing us into that hatred. Until we sit with our own traumas and sit with our own abuse and sit with our own pain and allow that part of ourselves to heal, we can't bring that to other people. The pathway to your peace is inside yourself and then outward. In the Serenity Prayer, it says, grant me this courage to change the things I can change. The things you can change is what you feel inside of you. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. You cannot change other people, and your hatred does not change them. It just makes you somebody that hates and creates more division. Hatred is what's creating the division, not government conspiracies, not some cabal. It's hatred inside the individuals that's causing the division in our country. So if you want to eliminate hatred, you have to work on finding your own peace within yourself and eliminating that need for hatred in your own life. The second one is jealousy. The second emotional state that we need to eliminate is jealousy. People in poverty jealous of the rich. People that are rich are jealous of people that are richer than they are, or jealous of people that are spiritual and more free than they are. We need to eliminate jealousy. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. We need to stop comparing ourselves to other people. Comparison is why we have jealousy. If you stop comparing yourself to other people and living your life to try to please other people or try to create an image that you fit in with other people, and we eliminate that need for jealousy inside of ourselves, we can heal. We can let go of that emotional state that keeps us locked in fear. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But jealousy comes from deep inside of ourselves, and we have to sit with the traumas inside of us that are causing us to have the feelings of jealousy, because jealousy is just an emotional response to trauma that we have inside of ourselves. Jealousy of not having enough, jealousy of not having what other kids have or what other people have, jealousy of not belonging, of not being paid enough and not being paid as much as that person is, or not being given something that you think that When somebody else has something that you think you deserve, that's where jealousy comes from. And that jealousy comes from your traumas inside of you. So we have to eliminate jealousy from our lives. As we dive into that and we start healing the wounds of ourselves in which we've been jealous. Jealousy's never really been a big issue in my life. It crops its ugly head up from time to time, but for the most part, I've never really been jealous of other people. But it's something that I see a lot in others. And it's something that I see a lot in other people towards me. I've seen it towards other people. I've seen people that are jealous of the freedom that we have in this country. I've seen people that are jealous of, whether other people have or don't have. I see it all the time. And we need to eliminate that need for jealousy in our lives. The third emotional state that we really need to eliminate is greed. One of the things that I've heard a lot of talk about is socialism versus capitalism, and neither system is perfect. And the reason why is greed and corruption. Because the people that run those systems, the people that are in power, have greed and corruption. And as long as greed and corruption exist, it doesn't matter what the particular system is. Neither system is perfect. But we need to stop blaming the system for things that are personal responsibility. I know a lot of capitalistic companies. I know small companies that are working on capitalism. They only exist because of capitalism, that treat their employees really, really well, and they take care of their employees. I know companies right now that their CEO makes less money than their employees do, and they're making a lot of money because they take care of their employees. It's not capitalism that's wrong. It's how people are using it to take advantage of people. And it's the greed and the corruption of the elite few that are at the top. The greed and corruption is what has to go. And greed isn't just about money either. I see a lot of people that are being greedy with ideas. How many people have ideas that could help solve problems in the world, and they keep them to themselves? That's a form of greed. Hoarding. My stepmother was a hoarder. She kept on this stuff. She held on to crap just for the sake of holding on to it, out of fear that she wouldn't have it if she would need it. She had a lot of trauma in her life that she never healed. She refused any help to heal because her identity was wrapped up in her trauma, and she didn't want to let go of her identity. But she had so much crap. She held on to everything. When we cleaned out her house, there were boxes labeled trash. That's actually what was in them, was trash that had been moved 4 or 5 times and kept in storage in case there was something in that trash that had been thrown away that she might need. Hoarding is a form of greed. And greed is just an emotional state. It's a fear of lack. Even listen to some of the wealthy people out there that are greedy. I'll tell you one, and I'll call him out by name, Grant Cardone. I love some of his stuff. I've watched some of his stuff, but the man's greedy as hell. And why? Because he operates out of a fear of lack. And everything he does is motivated by fear, not love, not compassion. If we eliminate greed and corruption, then we fall into a place of fear. When we fall into fear and we fall into greed, then we take advantage of people rather than creating interdependent relationships with people. We have to bring love into that fear to eliminate the greed. We have to bring compassion into that fear. Love, compassion, and peace are 3 of the top emotional states that we need to embrace more and more and more of, because until you do, we can't truly help eliminate these problems from the same state that's creating the problems. You cannot eliminate fear from a place of jealousy. You cannot eliminate greed from a state of jealousy. You cannot eliminate hatred by more hatred. That just widens the divide. That's why we have such a divide in this country, is because of these negative emotional states are ruling the arguments against. And the fourth one, that's the one that encompasses all of them, is fear. We have to eliminate fear from our lives. The more we focus on eliminating fear, the others all dissolve on their own, because all the others are just states of fear. One of the things I've learned as I've understood the emotional scales, I've dove into understanding emotional energy, is that all negative emotions are just different vibrations of fear. All the negative emotions are just different frequencies of fear, different degrees of fear. They all stem from fear. When we eliminate fear, we eliminate greed. When we eliminate fear, we eliminate jealousy. When we eliminate fear, we eliminate hatred. When we eliminate fear, we eliminate depression. When we eliminate fear, we eliminate powerlessness. When we eliminate fear, we eliminate all of the negative emotions. And I'm not here stating that I'm free of fear in my life, but I'm better now than I used to be. It's something I work on every single day. Part of what I'm doing is I do these meditations as I'm working through my own fears. I'm eliminating my own fears, and I'm becoming more calm. I'm in more peace now than I've probably ever been in my life. I'm more at peace with who I am and with where I'm at in my journey and with how I can help other people now than I've ever been in my life. And I've had some amazing experiences recently because I've been releasing so much fear and anxiety and hatred and jealousy and greed. Greed. I've had greed. I've held on to things that no longer serve me. That's really what greed is. It's when you're holding on to things and hoarding things that do not serve you and don't serve the greater good. It can be money, which is what a lot of wealthy people do. It can be property. How many people, how many pieces of real estate do you really need? How much money do you really need? One of the things that I read, one of the research studies that I read on wealth is if you make over $70,000 a year, it really doesn't improve your quality of life. That's when you start getting into just acquiring for the sake of acquiring. And that's getting into greed. And I'm not against people having a good income. I'm not against people having more stuff. Just don't hold on to it out of greed. Bring more. The best cure for greed is generosity, giving it away. Whether it's money, your ideas, business ideas. This is why I do content. And this is why I do so much free content that I don't even charge for. A lot of the stuff that you see right here on my channel, I see other people charging hundreds of dollars for. And I can't just do everything for free. I have bills to pay, but I do this for free because it's part of me giving and letting go of the need to control it and being generous with my time, being generous with my information, with my knowledge, because if I hold it and I hoard it and I don't share it, I'm being greedy and selfish with that. How many people do I talk to all the time who have ideas for books and they're not sharing them? They're holding on to them. That's a form of greed. And that's destructive and it's hurting you. And that's coming from fear, maybe fear of judgment, maybe fear of people won't like it. Hey, I don't have lots of viewers and people flocking in droves to my content yet. I'm hoping someday that might show up. But I do, try to share. And when the right people are ready, the message is going to be here. Great thing about YouTube is it can be here for years. It might be 6 months from now, the right person comes in and finds this video and learns something that changes their life. It might be 5 years from now. It might be 10 years from now. Great thing is this is evergreen content. This is going to be just as relevant in 10 years as it is today. And I'm giving it away. I'm not charging anything for this because this is coming from my heart and this is something that I feel needs to be shared. As I was in my meditation today, I just had this drive to come out and share this with people. The more we eliminate fear, the more we eliminate greed. The more we eliminate fear, the more we eliminate jealousy, hatred. If we eliminate these 4 emotional states from our lives, we will find ourselves in a place of peace, and we can find ourselves in a place of contentment and peace and love and compassion. And when we're in that place of peace within ourselves, this is when we expand our consciousness. This is when we can find new ways to heal the divides in our country. Until we find ways to heal ourselves, we can't heal the divides in our country. We have to get enough individuals doing these things. And if you like this, and if you know people that this can help, please share it out. Yes, it helps me to let YouTube know that people are liking this content, but I really want it to get out to people that want to change their lives. I want this to get out to as many people as possible so that people can start making the changes necessary so we can heal the divides in this country. Because I love my country. I love this place. It's one of the best places in the world we could live, but it's not perfect. And the reason it's in such despair is because of greed, because of fear, because of jealousy, because of hatred. That's what's destroying this country. It's not what systems are in place. It's not the Republicans or the Democrats or the Christians or the Jews or the Muslims or the blacks or the whites. None of that. Those are just the vessels for the emotional energy. It's these emotional states that are controlling people's lives that are destroying this country. And until we get that, we're not going to have healing and we're not going to have peace in this country. How do we create peace in the country? We got to start with the individual. We got to start with ourselves. And we can't force it on people. The thing is, one of the things that I love is Dr. David Hawkins' Power versus Force. I read the book in about 2012, 13. Jessica was pregnant with Emily at the time. I know that. The last time I read it, Jessica was pregnant with Emily, and she was born in 2013. So it was around the end of 2012, early 2013, when I read the book Power versus Force. And in that book, one of the big things that I learned from that book is that somebody that calibrates at a level of 500 or more negates like 10,000 people. And if you calibrate at a level of 700 or more, which 700, by the way, is the emotional state of peace, which is why I call everything the pathway to peace and finding peace and expanding our peace. Because if we can get to that state of peace, which is at 700 on the emotional scale, then we can negate the negativity of over 1 million people. One person. Can you imagine what could happen if we had 100,000 people vibrating at 700 on the emotional scale? We could eliminate the hatred in this country. We could completely negate negativity that's ruling this country. But we have to get enough people high enough vibration for that to happen. And there's some people that are working on it. There's a lot of people that are building these communities and sharing their ideas and their pathways to peace. Kyle Cease is doing it. Aaron Abke's doing it. There's a lot of people doing this work to help us raise the consciousness and the vibration of this country and of this planet. My personal take on it is the best way to do that is through this pathway to peace, eliminating these negative emotional states from our lives and healing the wounds that are causing us to have those emotional states in the first place. One of the best techniques I use for doing this is, and I had to do this with my stepmom years ago. I hated her. I was angry at her. I was resentful. And so one of the things that I had to do was I had to sit down and write a letter to her. And in that letter, I wrote all of my emotions and everything that I felt. And it wasn't blame. It wasn't shame. It wasn't, you're guilty of this. It was, this is how I feel about what you did. These are the things you did to me. And this is how I feel about those things that you did to me. And then at the end of that letter, I put in there, from here on out, all I'm going to ever do is send you love and peace. And then I took that letter and I never told her I wrote it. I never told her anything about it. And I burned it. And in doing that, I released all that negative energy towards her, all that negative emotional. And I found peace with her. And I was able to heal my relationship with her. just before she passed away in 2014. And I was actually able to be with her through meditation because I was in Austin and she was in Abilene, and there was a freak blizzard and I couldn't get there to be by her bedside. So I went into a meditation and I was with her through a transcendental meditation when she passed. And I came out of the meditation and was telling my wife she had just passed, and then the phone rang and it was her sister calling to tell me she had passed. I couldn't have done that with her, for her, and I wouldn't have wanted to had I not done that exercise and gotten through that peace with her. Eliminated that hatred and that anger and that rage and that jealousy and let go. The biggest way to find that peace with her was finding compassion for her and accepting her where she was at, not trying to change her. I never tried to change her, and I never tried to tell her she needed to be something different. I just found love and compassion for her and accepted her where she was at. That doesn't mean that I tolerated her BS. That doesn't mean that I put myself in that position to be reliant on her or to put myself in a position to be hurt by her again. I created healthy boundaries between me and her, but I was able to create that separation. But at the same time, I was able to send her love and compassion. And that's why I was able to heal. And that's why now, after she's passed, she and I have a better relationship now than we ever had while she was alive. And I couldn't have done that if I hadn't let go of the anger and the hatred. So work on eliminating these negative emotional states from your life. You're not going to be perfect. It's not going to happen overnight. I've been working on this for 30 years and I'm still working on it, and it's okay. But the more you do this, the more you do the deep inner work. I've done more in the last 12 days since I started this meditation challenge than I did in probably the last 10 or 15 years prior to that, just doing little 15 and 20-minute meditations whenever it was convenient. I really would recommend taking on and doing, even if you don't do it for 100 days like I'm doing, try to do it for 10 days. Do it for a month. Do an hour a day of meditation, because the more I'm doing this hour a day of meditation, the more peace I'm getting into, the more I'm able to work through some of those traumas. Sometimes it's taking me a good 45 minutes just to get into that real flow state and just allow these ideas to flow through me. And as I did this today, and I was doing some of this healing work, and I was doing some of this trauma work, and I was contemplating this whole Roe versus Wade issue going on, and contemplating all this other stuff going on in my meditation, and I just had all this stuff coming out of me, and I was exploring things inside of me. But it took me a good 45 minutes just to get through all that stuff and just get into that peaceful connection with myself. And whenever I got into that state of being at peace with myself and being in connection with myself, all that other stuff just started going away. And I knew I had to come and do a video to talk about these emotional states and how to eliminate. I knew that's what today's video needed to be. So I hope that these tips help you to find that peace in your life. I hope you're able to eliminate these emotional states and start working on your own journey of growth. Do that with each one of those emotional states. Do that exercise with each person that you're feeling those emotional states towards. And explore your traumas and write them down and then burn them if possible, safely. Don't do it in the house. We have a fire pit in the backyard. That's where I do the burning. And don't short yourself. When I did that letter, it was 8 pages long. It wasn't some short, quick scrawl that I threw a few ideas down. No, I sat down and I contemplated, and I spent over an hour just writing it. And I had 8 pages of stuff. The more you invest that time in yourself and in your own healing, the more you're going to heal. But it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's okay to be where you're at right now. If you're angry, if you're jealous, if you're hateful, even if you're greedy, it's okay. It's okay to be there right now. It's just not okay to stay stuck there. But it's okay to be there for right now. Go with peace. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day.